Or Councilmember Weiss, please come to the chamber. We do have a quorum. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, Weiss, Zine, Padilla. 10 members present, 11 members present, and a quorum, Madam President.
All right. Go through the roll. Let's go through the roll, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Zine moves. Mr. Smith seconds. The minutes are approved.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Those are approved.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Madam President, there are a couple items to be continued. On item number 1, the applicant consents to a continuance to September 24th.
Item 1 is continued. Again, could I have everyone's attention, please? The council is in session.
On item number 2, the applicant also consents to a continuance to September 24th.
Without objection, item 2 will be continued.
On the regular agenda, items 3 through 27 are items for which public hearings have been held.
We now, members, are on items 3 through item 27. Public hearings have been held on this matter. To reopen the public hearing would take a motion. Are there any specials, members? Item 3 through 27.
19 and 22.
Item 19 and item 22 are called special by Ms. Perry. Item 12.
Item 4.
Any other items, members?
Item 4.
Item 4 by Mr. Parks. Any other members? Any other? Item 11 as well. All right, Mr. Ludlow.
33.
We're not on 33 yet. We're just through 27. All right, members, the remaining items are now before us, other than those called special. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved.
Items 28 through 67 are items for which public hearings have not been held. Item 35 is an ordinance with an urgency clause. 12 votes are required. And on item 64, 10 votes are required to assert jurisdiction.
All right, I believe cards are being submitted on item 64, so we will call that special. 66 will be called special.
65, please.
65. Mr. Ludlow wanted 33, so that will also be called special. Any other items, members? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved.
Items 68 through 72 are the closed session items. Do you wish to hold these on the desk?
Yes, we will hold those items for closed session until the end of the session.
Back to the items called special. Item 4 was called special by Councilmember Parks.
Councilmember Parks, item 4 is before us.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd just like to ask the CEO to come up for just 1 or 2 quick questions.
Would the CAO please come to the table? Is the CAO present? Not seeing CAO. Let's hold that on the desk, but could someone please call the CAO so they can come forward to answer questions on that item? Next item.
Item 11 called special by Councilmember Labange.
Mr. Labange, item 11.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Madam President. Mr. Nelson, could you take the center table here? Give council a briefing on this issue. This is concerning, as we have over 70 neighborhood councils. Is that correct, Mr. Nelson?
76.
76 neighborhood councils. We want to make sure that the proper logo is on there stationary so nothing is misused. Is that correct, Mr. Nelson?
Yes, sir.
Well, give us a little background.
Greg Nelson, General Manager, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. I think the term logo has confused a few people. Neighborhood councils, for the most part, develop their own logos that represent the character of their neighborhoods. However, there was at least one incident where a group decided just simply to call itself a neighborhood council, when in fact it was not a certified neighborhood council. So the proposal from Councilman Labange was to develop something that could be used by neighborhood councils if they wished on their letterhead to indicate that they are in fact an official neighborhood council. So we developed what probably is the equivalent of a union bug, just a small little indicia that neighborhood councils could use, and at the request of the committee, we asked the neighborhood councils to take a look at it, decide how they felt about it, and everyone seemed satisfied, and we had actually designed three possibilities, and the committee looked at it and concluded that this would work for the purpose. It would be an optional thing that neighborhood councils could use, just the equivalent of a union
Wait a second,
bug.
Greg. What we want is something that has a consistency, because you'll have that problem where there'll be a non-neighborhood council will make it look like it's official. That's kind of what my thinking was, as maker of the motion, try to share that so that they see this document. Do you understand?
That was exactly our purpose. So
Okay. All right,
we're-
but you
we're
said it'd
there.
be optional. If it's optional, then what are we doing it for?
Well, some of the neighborhood councils have chosen to use the city seal, so that
That's
would
okay to
serve
use
the same
city
purpose.
seal, but okay. All right, so the city seal. Well, I think the city seal should be on all, if they want to have their own little neighborhood logo. That was the concept, though.
They can, by asking permission from me, use the city seal if they wish
Right.
on their letterhead. So that serves the same purpose as
Right.
the bug idea.
Okay. Well, all right. Anyway, members, this is just another advancement of our efforts to clarify the ability of neighborhood councils to communicate with some decor as opposed to the logo. And I thank you. I ask for an aye vote.
Councilmember Hahn.
Chair, colleagues, as we are attempting to get input in a formalized manner from city councils, particularly with our community impact statements that will be emailed and faxed and ultimately appear on our agenda here at the city council, I think we were attempting to make sure that when a neighborhood council said, this is our official community impact statement, every one of us will be reading before we vote on an item what a particular neighborhood council has said is how what we do down here at City Hall impacts them in their neighborhood. We wanted to make sure that it is foolproof, that is official, that we give them the kind of really formal recognition that they are going to need to have when they give us that kind of input. On the community impact statements, is this part of, you want to make sure that it either has a city seal or this bug when they fax the stuff?
Yeah, if they faxed in a community impact statement, it would be on their letterhead, and the letterhead could include the city seal or the bug.
Okay, well, I just wanted to just clarify why this is important, that all neighborhood councils have an official either certification bug or the city seal on everything that they do to communicate, because there, as you know, we have a few disputes out there, even as we speak, about neighborhood councils and having groups that are objecting to the certification of a particular group and attempting to still speak as the voice of that particular neighborhood. So we just want to make sure that all confusion is set aside when they begin being the voice for their neighborhood as a real certified neighborhood council. So I urge your support on Councilman Labange's attempt to formalize this.
Seeing no one else wishing to... Mr. Labange.
Just a little clarification. I may have been a little rough on Greg, but that's because you made me play right field there so many years ago. But anyway, thank you, Greg, for that.
Councilmember Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing I was wondering from the report, whether it's been distributed to see what the bug looks like. I don't think, I have not seen it, and I was just wondering if you have copies to distribute.
Yes, Councilman, I brought extra copies and
Okay.
just was holding them to see if it got called special, and it all
Okay.
happened in a hurry, but
The one thing also, and I didn't quite understand, did we settle that this was going to be used as a option or it's going to be mandatory?
it's going to be used as an option, Councilman, because some of the neighborhood councils already use the city seal as part of their letterhead, and that serves the same purpose because you can't use the city seal without my permission.
Okay. Because I think what Councilman Labange said, if you make it optional, then do we still have the same problem that people can be sending out paperwork that is not clearly identified as being a certified neighborhood council? I was thinking it was supposed to be mandatory, so when you saw that seal, you'd know it. Yeah. So I move that
We could do that.
make it mandatory, even if they use the city seal.
All right. We now have no one else wishing to speak, but we do have that clarification. With that, the committee report is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. I believe the CAO is with us now. And so we can return to item 4. And before the CAO comes forward, Mr. Garcetti has asked for a moment to make a special presentation. So let me recognize Councilmember Garcetti.
Yeah, Grace, why don't you do it? Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you, colleagues. I appreciate your willingness to take a presentation today a little bit out of order. But the City of Los Angeles today is, with great sadness, but also congratulations for many years of services, saying goodbye to Roberto Abelda, who is from the City Housing Department and who has done just an exemplary job in his many years of service to the City of Los Angeles in promoting affordable housing, in promoting safe housing here in the city, and in really putting forward the ideals that we often talk about here but mean nothing without the implementation of the people who make these laws a reality every single living day here in the city. Roberto first came to the city in 1974. I was 3 years old, but we were very proud to have you then, as a rehabilitation construction specialist. And he did a lot of initial community outreach in the city's rehab programs, and did a number of things for the next 20 years, but most notably, one of his great achievements was in 1994 after the North Ridge earthquake. He was a financial development officer with the Housing Department and was a key player in the city's development team in making sure that loans were expedited to repair many of the apartments that were damaged, specifically the 17 earthquake ghost town neighborhoods in Los Angeles. He's also demonstrated his leadership and his commitment in our city's commitment to affordable housing here, and was promoted to Community Housing Program Manager in 1996, which provided oversight to the city's major projects unit, the Home Ownership Unit, the Construction and Technical Services Unit, the Lead Grant Unit, the Architectural Services Unit, and the Housing Opportunities for People with HIV and AIDS Unit, as well as the Domestic Violence Capital Programs. That's quite a portfolio for anybody, but the grace and the aplomb with which Roberto was able to administer that led him to, in 2002, being appointed the housing director for the city, and he helped plan and direct and coordinate much of the city's affordable housing policies, which we've been able to pass the last few years here in the city. He was particularly significant in design, the organization, and the implementation of something that we all, I think, are very proud of, which is the high leverage program in the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And just to give you an idea of how successful we were in round one of the funding cycle for the Housing Trust Fund, we provided $15.2 million in funding commitments for 13 multifamily housing developments, and a total development cost of about $112 million of affordable housing throughout the city. And all the families that for decades will be living in that housing are indebted as well to Roberto. So on behalf of the entire city, for an incredible career, and I didn't realize that you were leaving till somebody told me this morning. It gives me personally a great sadness that we won't be able to work together more, but I'm sure many in the city family will ask to draw on your expertise and your wisdom after all these years. I'm sure that your wife Gia and that your daughter Grace are happy to have you back home more, but we wish you all the best, and on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, thank you for your incredible, incredible service to us and the residents of our great city. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Reyes has also requested to speak. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Madam President. Roberto, let's take your pictures first. I just wanted to rise to express my heartfelt thanks for all your hard work. I have vivid memories of our working together after the earthquakes, when we were under that gun to build all that housing in the valley, all the old brick buildings that were coming down in my district, and the tremendous work that you put together, all those hours, and the stress of having to deal with 15 different council offices and the mayor's office, all trying to address each one equally with a strong sense of passion and commitment. And I believe your strength was in your approach, in that you weren't very demonstrative in just how anxious you would get, but you got the work done, and your word was golden. So I appreciate all your hard work. In the midst of all this turbulence, you were very steady and very strong, and for that I thank you for all your production, and on behalf of all the people that have a roof over their heads because of your hard work, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
So we hear from Ralph Esparza from the Housing Department, our Assistant General Manager.
Thank you, Councilman. On behalf of the Housing Department, I want to recognize Roberto. A year ago, he decided to retire, and we literally had to beg him to stay one more year. His wife was very insistent that they spend time together, and she's already retired from Water and Power. But Roberto was really instrumental this last year, as the Council, Garcetti said, in helping us develop the trust fund programs that we have brought before the Mayor and Council. And he stayed with us this last 6 months to help us implement the program, but it's now time for him to leave, and we appreciate all the work he did. So, again, thank you, Roberto. We're going to miss you. Good luck.
I just want to express my sincere appreciation for this recognition, and I hope and pray that the Housing Department will continue to receive your support and appreciation of its programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. All right, Mr. Clerk, I will return to the roll and the agenda, and I believe item 4 is before us. If Mr. Fujioka could come to the center. The chair recognizes Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple of questions for Mr. Fujioka. One of the things I failed to ask at the last hearing on this item, could you give us an estimate of, it's roughly $20 to $30 million per year on this contract. How many officers, if we're hiring new personnel, with that amount of money pay?
You know, our current estimate for this fiscal year is a cost of about $20 million. And that would provide for an approximate, that $20 million for about 200 additional officers.
Okay. And in subsequent years, it would increase beyond the $20 million?
Yes, it would, with the, because of the cost of living built into this contract,
Okay.
the COLA
So
built into
we're
the
talking
contract.
between 200 and 300 officers if you're buying new officers.
That's a rough estimate.
Okay. The other issue I just want to clarify is that, does this put us further away from our consideration of the UB for the 326 that we evaluated in the budget process?
It all depends on what actions we take. If we take no action with respect to identifying our priorities and what other positions can be, or positions or programs or services can be reduced or eliminated, it could impact that decision. But through your committee and subsequently this full council, we'll be bringing a proposal to the council after the break on how we would address our budgetary problems caused by both the state budget and then some other challenges we've already identified. So we'll have that discussion through your committee and then full council.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 is now before us, members. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 1 no.
That is approved. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Item 12, called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
I believe Mr. Garcetti is in the back with photographs, so let's move to the next item.
Item 19, called special by Councilmember Perry.
Madam, is Mrs. Perry present for item 19? Ms. Perry, before I call you, at this point we now have 14 members. Mr. Clerk, why don't we reconsider the ordinances for so they can all be acted on today? Could you please, so for purposes of being able to act on the ordinances today, there are 13 here. Could you please tell us which items the ordinances are?
Items 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, and 35.
All right. Without objection, we are reconsidering the ordinances as enumerated by the clerk. Madam Clerk, open the roll on reconsideration. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
All right. Those matters are now before us for action. Please open the roll on those. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved, and we will send them forthwith to the mayor. Now we will return to item 19. Mr. Weiss?
I think item 4, a vote was held before I was in council chambers. That was the police matter. And if in fact that was held before I was in council chambers, I understand it passed, and since my vote won't affect the outcome, I would like it to be noted that I would like to be recorded as an aye vote on that.
All right. If there's no objection, Mr. Weiss will be recorded as an aye vote on item number 4.
Madam President,
Mr. Villaraigosa?
I'm in the same position.
Mr. Villaraigosa will also be added to the aye vote column on item number 4. That now brings us to item 19. Let me recognize Ms. Perry. Did you want to speak first, or Mr. Reyes? All right, then let's recognize the Planning and Land Use Committee Chair, Councilmember Reyes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilmember Perry. Madam Chair, colleagues, this is a very important issue, not only for the families in District 9 and the impact it will have in the neighborhoods and the quality of life for our children, but also has citywide implications. And for that reason, Madam Chair, I wanted to ask your advice. Madam Chair, I wanted to ask your advice if this is an item that we should take into closed session, given the delicacy and the intricacy of the impact of our discussion and the critical nature of what our follow-up will be like. I would like to get your opinion on that.
Well, let me suggest that the city attorney has advised that perhaps we might want to reopen the public hearing, and since there is one card, hear from a member of the public first, and then have our council discussion and our discussion with the city attorney. Okay. So let me, at this point, if there's no objection, reopen the public hearing and hear from Anna Kubas. Would you please come forward and testify at this time?
Good morning. My name is Ana Cubas. I'm Director of Policy and Legislation for School Board President Jose Huizar. Board President Jose Huizar represents this area on the school board, and I am here to express his strong opposition to the opening of the strip club that is right across from a proposed middle school. Board President Huizar has introduced a resolution in opposition to the strip club and urges the city to prevent the opening of the strip club. This resolution is up for action at our August 26th meeting. I'm also here to support the Plum Committee report, but ask that the city do everything in its power to prevent the strip club from opening. Obviously, it's a nuisance to the community and the students. These are middle school students that will attend this school. The school will open in year 2005. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also had a request to speak from Mr. Glenn Gritzner.
Good morning. Glenn Gritzner, Special Assistant to the Superintendent with LAUSD. Just wanted to reiterate our strong objection to this club going up directly across the street from our school, and to support the recommendation from the Plum Committee to further investigate this matter. Just to reiterate a couple of points that we made in the Plum Committee, there are some questions about when the city did or didn't know about this project. We have a number of communications from various city departments in expressing knowledge of this project back in August of 2001. And if there's nothing else that would indicate knowledge of the project, we have a sign at the site that went up in June of 2002. This is the sign indicating our school. That went up 4 months before this project was approved, and this building right here is the strip club. So you can see that the sign is clearly visible from the strip club. One other photo I want to show you is just to make sure you understand the full severity of this issue. This is the fence of our middle school. Middle school students here, strip club here. So it is right across the street, and we just want to express the full hope that the city would help to rectify this issue, because no matter how we got here, it's a problem that we all now face. So we appreciate the support of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee on this item, and we are working to ensure that the city is aware of all of our school sites on a going forward basis, and just wanted to reiterate the fact that we think that this would be a great travesty for this community to have this club where it's currently located. Thank you very much.
All right. That closes the public hearing for cards that were submitted on this matter.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I had
Mr.
one more item, I'm sorry. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that this item is on our closed session agenda from our Board of Education, and the board is investigating various legal options and legal recourse if this matter does go forward, and I just wanted to ensure that the city was aware of what our board is currently investigating on our side as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That now does close the public hearing. Mr. Reyes asked a question. I'm sorry. Yes, sir, did you turn in a card? I have no other cards. Yes, Ms. Perry? Could we turn on Ms. Perry's microphone, please? The chair has recognized Ms. Perry. We need to be able to hear her.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, great. If we go into closed session, before we go in, I would like to put my public position on the record as I did in committee. That's all I want to do.
Perhaps at this time we should ask the city attorney to come to the table to advise the city council whether or not this is a matter that can be considered in closed session.
Madam President, we believe if you want to continue to take public testimony, that's fine. If you have questions regarding specific issues, at that point we can consider whether to go into closed session. We believe that there may fall under the exception of threatened litigation. So if you would like us to discuss matters of legal strategy and risk, we would want to do that in closed session. But that could occur after the public hearing.
I had called all the speakers who had submitted cards on this matter, and Ms. Perry did ask to be able to make a presentation of her point of view. So at this point, let me recognize Councilmember Perry.
Okay, and what is the resolution of the cards that are outstanding?
As we now have been speaking, I do have now 5 cards. If you would like a limited public hearing, we can continue the public.
If they could each get up and maybe make no more than a minute comment, because most of the people here today did comment in Plum, but I just wanted to put my position on the record and to ask my colleagues to just take a look at the pictures and the maps that were placed on their desks to highlight the close proximity between the new middle school and the strip club, as well as the proximity of the strip club to residential housing. Additionally, the strip club sits diagonally across the street from Mercado La Paloma, which is developed and run by Sister Diane Donahue, and its proximity to the adult entertainment site is very close, less than 500 feet. Mercado La Paloma is home to a number of nonprofits and a community-based market that focuses on families and local residents and is a burgeoning tourist attraction. I hope that all of you will be able to support the Plum Committee recommendations and support the city's existing planning ordinance that prohibits the establishment of this type of business within 500 feet of a school or residential development, and to allow this community to thrive as well. And as we get into the details in closed session, we can dig a little deeper. But I also want you to know that I had spoken with the board member for the school district over 2 years ago and recommended the site where the school is going to be built because it was assembled, underutilized telecom site, and I preferred to see a school go on a site like that rather than to take people's homes. So it was my recommendation that the school district go over there.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Ms. Perry did ask for a limited reopening of the public hearing. If there are no objections, I will allow the reopening of the public hearing and call the cards submitted and ask everyone to line up at the microphone and briefly address us on this issue. Mark Fawcett, Richard Smith, Elizabeth Arvald, and so initials here, CCPA Acorn.
Good morning. My name is Mark Fawcett. I'm the Director of Community Relations for Amity Foundation. I'm representing over 100 residents within one block of the proposed site. We oppose the opening of the strip club at 37th and Grand, and I point out in today's agenda it says it's at 36th and Grand. It's actually at 37th and Grand. Our foundation has been working with Councilmember Perry's office, the Mercado La Paloma, and other nonprofit groups to develop the strong community fabric needed to embrace the opening of the much-needed middle school number 4. LA Unified has been working with all members of the community as the process for the opening of the school has gone along. At no time did the property owners or residents receive notice of this club's opening. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the council. My name is Richard Smith. I'm with the United Coalition East Prevention Project, and on behalf of the director, the staff, and the membership of the United Coalition East, we urge your support of the Plum Committee's recommendations. Thank you very much.
Yes, good morning. My name is Elizabeth Arevalo, and I represent Mercado La Paloma. We are here, a big group of people are here to support the recommendations of the Plum Committee. And our Councilwoman, John Perry, we definitely oppose the opening of the strip club across the street from the school. And we ask the city to do everything in their power to avoid and to prevent an adult entertainment club being less than 500 feet from the middle school number 4 and the Mercado La Paloma. Thank you.
So we're here also to voice our support for Jan Perry and opposing this club. California Child Care Providers for Action opposes the Gentleman Club being located across from the school. We're in the process of building a Say Yes to Children network, which has at its mission improving the quality of lives of children here in California and in Los Angeles in particular, by getting both public and private entities to prioritize children. The notion of building a gentleman's club next to a school is in direct opposition to this mission. We cannot imagine that any organization or individual that is a part of this network would be willing to stand by as a gentleman's club is built next to a public school. We intend to mobilize around this issue to ensure the best outcome for the children of Los Angeles. Because we put children first, and we know that we would not even be having this hearing or this debate if it was another part of the city. We're just fundamentally aware of that, and we find it almost disrespectful. But we're going to trust this public process and try to nudge this public process in the right direction. We're calling on the city not to allow this business to go forward because CCPA, Acorn, will not allow it to go forward. We will not sit idly by while the quality of life in our communities get eroded away more and more and more and more. With acknowledgement comes responsibility. We're going to own up to our responsibility to do something about this. We hope that you do as well. My name is John Jackson. I'm the Director of California Child Care Providers for Action.
Thank you. All right, at this point, the public hearing is closed. There are 3 members who wish to speak, and we've had a suggestion by the city attorney that we go into closed session. Is it the will of the council to go into closed session in our back executive room temporarily, or have the discussion first? Do it. All right, then. Mr. Ludlow, you are next to speak.
No, just if that's what we got to do to get to the business, I really want to support Councilmember Perry, and I think this could come up in any district in the city of LA, and I think this is something that we need to deal with today. So if that's the recommendation of the city attorney, I'd be in support of that so we can get to the business.
All right, members, without objection then, let us recess from this spot, go into the back room for executive session, and members of the public, we will return as soon as we can to come back and continue conducting this business. So members, please join me in the room across the hall. Reyes, the chairman of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I'd like to request your support in directing the Planning and Land Use Committee report so we can instruct the Department of Building and Safety to initiate proceedings to revoke the building permit for the property site proposed for an adult entertainment business located at 36th Street and Grand Avenue. To withhold issuance of the certificate of occupancy for 45 days to be determined by the Department of Building and Safety if any outstanding zoning land use issues need clarification. I stand in support of this Plum Committee report. I encourage and I vote.
All right, we've had the committee report recommended. Ms. Gruhl had pushed a button before. She doesn't wish to speak at this time. So, Mr. Clerk, the matter is before us as a committee report recommended by the chair. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That matter, the committee report is approved. Thank you. We'll send that forthwith. Next item. I believe Mr. Padilla has asked for that item 64 be taken out of order. So, without objection, we will take up item 64, and let me recognize Mr. Padilla. I believe this is a public hearing required, and we have a number of cards that are submitted, but Mr. Padilla, why don't you begin?
Okay, thank you. Just quickly, I do want to speak after we hear from members of the public. Colleagues, I appreciate you taking this item out of order. I understand there's been about 15 speaker cards or so that have been submitted, but hopefully the residents can sort of get together and maybe have 5 or 6 speak on behalf of the entire group to expedite the public hearing for consideration of everybody's time here today. And I'm not sure if there's anybody here in favor of the license and against what the majority of the community wants, but we want to make sure that both sides are heard in that brief public hearing.
There have been 14 cards submitted. They are all in opposition. So per the request of Mr. Padilla, I'm not sure if there is a community representative or a few of you who would like to come forward at this time to speak representing the view of the community. So rather than calling the names out, why don't the members who are here on item 14 from, I do have Mr. Isaac Arias, who is here from the Pacoima Neighborhood Council. Let me call that name and ask him to step forward at this time. Mr. Arias? There also is Richard Gallegos, President of the Pacoima Neighborhood Council.
Good morning. Members of the Los Angeles City Council. My name is Isaac Arias. I've been living right there in Pacoima since 1953. I live in the same house. I'm the president of the community service right there, the neighborhood watch right there. And I came over here, and we are supporting the motion by the President Alex Padilla. The number is 03-1735, and to oppose the grown CPU to sell alcohol in our community. Because I appreciate if you take this into consideration, because it's about time right now, all these years I've been living in Pacoima, we got it more or less, not a number one in control, but we're going to try. And our community is growing right now. I appreciate you taking consideration by this point. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Gallegos. And let me also call Javier Flores, Elizabeth Aguilar, Sandra Obando.
Good morning, Madam President, members of the City Council. Thank you for having us here. And as you can see, we brought our community here, not only part of our neighborhood council, but also part of the Pacoima Neighborhood Youth Committee. Would you please stand up? Thank you. We are all here in support of our council member, Alex Padilla, not to issue the license or any liquor license of this facility, which is in the corner of San Fernando Road and Desmond. We have had many problems in our community due to alcohol. So therefore, I please urge you to deny this license and any further license, but in this case, this license in particular, for any issuance of alcohol. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Madam President, honorable members of council, my name is Javier Flores and I'm Executive Director of Pueblo y Salud. I would like to enter into the record correspondence that we prepared for all of you today. We were hoping that you would have had it by now, but for some reason or other they suggested that we do it this way instead. So if I may, and very briefly, just allow me to state that Pueblo y Salud would like to go on record in support of motion 03-1735, that's Padilla, Lutlow, and Reyes, relative to asserting jurisdiction over the North Valley Area Planning Commission's August 7th, 2003 action approving the appeal from the determination of the Associate Zoning Administrator's denial of a conditional use permit to allow the sale and dispensing of beer and wine in conjunction with the operation of a gas station and mini market at 11243 North San Fernando Road. Essentially, Pueblo y Salud has been working to prevent alcohol proliferation in the area for the past 18 years. We formed various collaboratives and coalitions, some of them including a group called Focus 90s, which was comprised of African American ministers, the Latino Coalition on Alcohol Issues, the Pacoima and San Fernando ATOD policy coalitions, so forth and so on. We've been very instrumental. We've actually reduced the number of outlets, alcohol outlets in that area from 95 to 75. And in 1990, Captain Ting McBride of the area concluded that we were instrumental because we reduced by that significant number alcohol outlets in the area. He pretty much stated that we were responsible for the reduction in DUI arrests, property damage, and deaths in the area by 10% in 1989 and 14% in 1990. So the reduction of alcohol outlets has a direct correlation with alcohol-related problems. We know this has a direct correlation with crime. Pacoima has been saturated with alcohol outlets. We do not need any more there. We're very happy to see Councilman Padilla taking on the position that he's taking on and helping us reduce alcohol outlets in the area. And one last thing. 18 years ago, we were leading the community. We were the ones who were going out there and shaking the bushes and getting community come on out here and tell you and ask you to please not allow licenses. Today, we're here following them. They're the ones who brought us down today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll have time for 2 more speakers.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Aguilar. I am 11 years old. I attend Sepulveda Middle School and in the 7th grade. I have lived in this community all my life. Through my years of life, I have heard tragic stories caused by alcohol. I know very well the damage alcohol can cause because my father was an alcoholic. Alcohol did not only affect him, but my whole family. But now I am very happy to say that he is in treatment and has been sober for over 2 years. So we, as the Pacoima Neighborhood Council Committee, stand for you to try to stop any more alcohol permits in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Bondo.
Good morning, Ms. President and members of the council. My name is Justine. I'm 11 years old and am in the 6th grade. I attend Madison Junior High. I've been living in the community of Pacoima for the past 3 years. I'm here to tell you to please deny the liquor license. We do not want or need any more liquor in this community. Liquor promotes violence, and violence is one of the many problems we have in our community and throughout the communities in LA. If you deny this liquor license, you and the many other people of Pacoima can solve one of these problems.
Thank you. Okay, this will be our final speaker.
Buenos días, miembros del Concilio de la Ciudad de Los Ángeles. Mi nombre es Sandra Obando. Yo vengo de la ciudad de Pacoima y soy miembro del comité del Concilio Vecinal de Pacoima y estoy apoyando al concejal en la moción.
Gracias.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Obando, and I'm president of the RAC of the San Fernando Gardens, and I'm here to support Councilman Padilla's motion.
Y estamos en contra de que les den la licencia al negocio. Muchas gracias.
And we are against the granting of the permit to this business to sell alcohol. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the community for coming down. All of the other cards that are submitted will be made a part of the file, and I appreciate that you stood to show us the strength and support that you are bringing down to us today on the council. Let me at this time recognize Councilmember Padilla.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I too want to thank all the members of the community, everybody from my district for coming down here. We know it's not easy, especially during the day, especially during the week, but I think it's a testament to how important this issue is to the impacted community, the people who live around the vicinity of this Arco gas station. Colleagues, let me put this in a couple of contexts. I think that the community did a great job of explaining to you the community impact, the historical fight to reduce the number of on-sale and especially off-sale liquor licenses in this community. As many of you know who have dealt with these issues, it's not just a matter of concentration in a 600-foot radius. We can look at it by census tract, we can look at it by council district, we can look at it by police divisions. This Northeast San Fernando Valley has historically been burdened by an overabundance of all types of liquor licenses, and it's taken 20 years of community effort to try to bring that number down, to try to rein in the problem, but it's still an overconcentration when you look at it by Caldera census tracts or any other measure. This is an operator who wasn't happy with being able to sell beer and wine from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wasn't just happy enough being able to sell the 6-packs, the 12-packs, etc. Their request originally and specifically was to be able to start selling the 1 can at a time, the 2 can at a time at a gas station. Their request specifically and originally was to start selling as early as 8 a.m. 8 a.m. on a major thoroughfare for kids walking to and from school, all the way to 2 a.m. Selling until 10 p.m. wasn't enough for them. In the process of putting the case together, the information together, and I do want to acknowledge both LAPD Vice are here and the zoning administrators here, so if there's any questions, we can ask them directly. We came to find out that they've been out of compliance and operating without the proper permits for 15 years. 15 years. So just on the merits of that, I do move 2 things. One is that we assert jurisdiction today by our first vote, and the second vote to reinstate the zoning administrator's recommendation, which is to deny this request and deny this application. But I want to also add the following from a community standpoint and from a personal standpoint. We can look at the laws and the conditions that we put on a property or a license or a business, and we can talk about enforcement issues. At the end of the day, the reason we are members of the council is to protect our constituents and their quality of life. I can tell you, first-hand experiences have shown me this is a problem property. I don't need to hear that there's been multiple violations, including selling to minors in the last couple of years alone. I can tell you, dating back to when I was a teenager growing up in the area, it was known as a spot that you didn't need to be 21 to go buy alcohol. It was understood you can go there, no questions asked. I can tell you that that was a place that a lot of violent activity was taking place after school. It was a place where fights and shootings took place on the weekends. I can tell you that I know people who might have been gang-related or not that were shot at this property. So if you need to hear directly from the police department, separate from the community, about the incident reports and the calls for response at this property, we can have that. But colleagues, I hope that the impression that the community has made, that the reports before you have made, and I hope that I have made can convince you that this is a great opportunity for us to continue this historical fight to reduce the number of licenses and particularly the irresponsible establishments in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. I ask for your support on these two motions. The first, to assert jurisdiction in this matter, and second, to uphold the zoning administrator's recommendation to deny the permit.
All right, we do have others who have pushed their request to speak, but first, you've heard the motion, members, for the asserting of jurisdiction. Let's vote first on that matter and then continue with the discussion. So on the issue of asserting the jurisdiction, the matters before us, I believe we've heard Mr. Padilla indicate the reason why he believes it's important that this be taken up by the City Council. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, that matter is approved. That means we will discuss it and discuss a question of whether or not we take further action. At this time, let me call on Councilmember Reyes.
I'll pass on.
All right, Mr. Reyes has no indication of wanting to speak at this time. Is there any other member of the council wanting to speak? If not, Mr. Padilla, did you want to close, or is that? All right, then we have the motion by Mr. Padilla to reinstate the action of the zoning administrator denying this permit with the findings that the zoning administrator had originally made. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That matter is approved. Thank you. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Madam President, item 12 is still on the desk. Do you wish to take that up right now?
Yes, let's go to item 12.
Was called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues. This has to do with day laborer centers throughout the city. We had made a very explicit instruction in committee that we just wanted to underscore. I believe Mr. Parks has a friendly amendment to be introduced that we look for funding for a further location in the 8th Council District. And again, I just wanted to also use this opportunity to underscore again the sense of responsibility that we feel that some of the stores that are the magnets for these day laborers should bear in helping us solve this problem together. They get the benefit of those day laborers, but they often do not pay anything or help us out at all with the spillover effects in communities which can take over streets. We want to have day laborer centers where folks can be safely put and where folks can learn education and ESL classes and other things that help them bring up their families. But at the same time, we really feel a strong sense of responsibility that the companies, the Home Depots of the world, should be our partners in solving that problem. So as we instruct CDD in the next round or in the subsequent time to report back in 30 days to look at where we can find some sources of funding for another worker center in CD8, this will allow the RFP to go forward in the meantime in the other locations and just underscore the city's commitment to working together with the businesses that are part of this and really pushing them to be our partners. Thank you.
Mr. Parks.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I also, in support of the funding on item 12, would like to comment and support what Mr. Garcetti has just said, is that we do need to make sure that Home Depot and other companies are aware of the impact. Certainly they get the benefit of a significant amount of our trades and also our development in the city as far as people coming and making those purchases. But they also have a following throughout the city that creates somewhat of a hardship on a variety of residential communities in which these places are located. And so I would like to add a motion today on this item that we ask CDD to identify funds to establish a day labor site in Chesterfield Square area, but also that they conduct a day labor site mitigation plan for the area of Fairfax and Slauson. Although it's in the county, it impacts a large percentage of the city of Los Angeles and its residents, and ask that they add that to their report. And I'd like to also additionally support that we ask CDD to come forward and develop a meeting with concerned council districts that have these problems with these businesses, so that they can sit down and talk about a generic plan for a citywide effort to have them take responsibility for some of this activity. The city is spending significant amount of money to manage this operation, but I believe that these companies also have some responsibility.
Thank you. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam President, colleagues. On the issue of the day laborers, we do have problems in the San Fernando Valley, and it's 105 degrees, and I have empathy for the people standing on those street corners trying to get work. We recently met with the president of Home Depot, and we tried to do correspondence with the company. We didn't get much response, but having a meeting with the president of Home Depot, also with John Miller of the LAPD, brought about incredible cooperation. And Home Depot has offered their assistance in any way possible to help with the centers for the day laborers that congregate within the communities of Los Angeles. So if anyone in the council needs that contact, I'd be happy to share that with them. We talked about the problem of locking up the spray paint and the graffiti and the day laborers, etc., and the president of Home Depot is extremely cooperative. The problem is it just didn't get to the right people, and now we're at the president of Home Depot. We had a lengthy dinner meeting, discussed these issues, and I want to assure this body that they're very, very cooperative, and they want to work with us in every way possible to help remedy the problem of the day laborers congregating in neighborhoods and afford the opportunity for people to have a safe haven to gather work, and for the people who need them, they will have a place to secure their services throughout the city of Los Angeles. So I want to give a thumbs up for Home Depot for their cooperation in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Madam President. Along the lines of what's been asserted by my colleagues, Councilmember Parks and Councilmember Zine, we are in a position where when these projects and these developments are being proposed, we can request and assert that they have the day labor sites on site. There's a lot of pressure put on us in the community when they say it shouldn't be on site, it should be next door, it should be across the street, it should be down the street. And I believe that is taken away from their level of accountability and responsibility for the impacts that are created in our neighborhoods. I want to say thanks to Home Depot and that we were able to put together an on-site facility at the Cypress Park Center. But it did not come easy. We had to negotiate, we had to work with variances, had to deal with parking exemptions, and it took work to get there. And I just want to share with my colleagues as those options come forward that you have a whole range of opportunities to deal with the impact that does create in some areas an imposition when we have folks who are just trying to make a living.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. The matter is now before us. We have the amendment that was circulated by Councilmember Parks. Let's vote on the amendment. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
And now the item is recommended by the committee with the amendment attached. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
All right, that is before us. Members, Mr. Ludlow would call item 33 special, which is also an ordinance. He no longer needs to discuss that. So let's vote on that while we still have 13 members here. Item 33 is before us. Anyone wishing to speak? If not, close the hearing, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. We will also send that forthwith. What remains, Mr. Clerk?
Item 22, called special by Councilmember Perry.
Ms. Perry?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to refer that matter to the Environmental Quality Committee.
Without objection, item 22, but will be referred to environmental quality. That'll be the order.
Item 65, called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes? Item 65 is before us.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 65 is a step in the direction that can hopefully put us in a position where we know what the left hand and right hand is doing. I must compliment our departments because they are working to that end as we speak. Unfortunately, we've had to deal with circumstances and cases now that could be detrimental to some of our communities. But specifically what this does, it begins to put into a central location a school site identification protocol in which the school district, which is a state agency, which is of a higher jurisdiction, can coordinate with building safety and the planning department. So when an application comes forward and it's a kind of proposed project that's incompatible or detrimental to certain neighborhoods, we can identify that conflict. And having an Azimuth map or any other maps in which all the departments have access to this information when investors are looking to see where they want to place a certain use, that we understand that there is a school there and that there will be impacts. It will, I believe, prevent a lot of heartaches, a lot of time and money, and it will enhance that predictability that we need when we start looking at where and when we identify permits for specific uses. And I'm hoping we get a full support on this and get this in place as soon as possible, knowing that there are other proposed projects coming online, and we have to make sure that the school district knows, as well as building safety and planning, what's going on in those particular neighborhoods. That's when I vote.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Other members wishing to be heard on item 65? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Ms. Perry?
I wanted to ask for reconsideration on item 39 on behalf of Councilmember Gruhl.
Okay, colleagues, we have a motion for reconsideration of item 39 from today's agenda. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Item 39 is reconsidered, and your request for disposition?
She's asked me to ask for the item to be continued for 30 days.
Okay, colleagues, we have a request for continuance of item 39 for 30 days. That would be September 16th, I believe. Without objection, so ordered. Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
Item 66, called special by Councilmember Labange.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you, members. If you see in the motion that was drafted, it talked about the passionate discussion that took place on August 1st in this chambers about crime and the effects of crime. And hearing that passion that each of you displayed, I thought it would be incumbent upon us to arrange in September a time for a special order of business in council at this center table where we invite the Board of Police Commissioners, invite the Chief of Police, invite others to discuss at length the issues of crime, the effects of crime on neighborhoods and community, on persons at that time. It is never a good day in Los Angeles when someone is a hostile victim of violent crime. It is never a good day in Los Angeles when families are torn apart about the problems that are affected by crime. And I think it's important for us to have those in the public safety area come here on a special agenda item, because all too often we have agenda items that discuss an issue here, an issue here. I think it would be important that we focus this totally on this on a special order of business in September and have the Board of Police Commissioners, the Chief of Police, other staff from the police department, maybe criminologists and sociologists here to have a lengthy discussion so that we can also make the right decisions in the future about our police department and our service to the people of Los Angeles. So I ask for an aye vote on this matter, and I appreciate the work of Sidney Misikowski, our Chair of Public Safety, who will also coordinate with me and will work with the President of the Council on this matter for a special order of business in September at a council meeting, probably the 3rd or 4th week of September, to focus on the very important issue of crime and the effects of crime on our communities.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Labange, for introducing this. I know that last year we were the murder capital of this country, and we cannot maintain that lead. We have to make sure that we reduce murder here in the city. We had actually 2 crowns we took back last year of shame. One was that we're the murder capital of the country. We're now also the smoggiest city in the country. Again, both unhealthy, but clearly one much more than the other. And one of the things I'd like to just add as a friendly amendment, if we can, is to look at some of the sources of these homicides and some of the prevention and intervention aspects too. I know the police really specializes in suppression, but as we've discussed in here, Mr. Park's motion, Mr. Cardenas's motion, my own, that looking at more money for gang intervention money, we know that most of the deaths are young people killing other young people. We're spending less than a half a penny on the dollar on intervention versus suppression. And let's fold that into the discussion so we can look at how we reduce that homicide rate based also on how we intervene with our young people and make sure that they're actually teaching each other instead of killing each other. So if that's okay to put something in with that too.
Sure. Would it be possible, because I think it's so important that we discuss this element first step, that maybe at a subsequent meeting on a special order of business that we discuss these other elements. Let's start here and move from there. I want to ask Ms. Misikowski her opinion of that concept, because all of a sudden you could bring everything together on the table. But let's start with the police commission and the chief of police, and then at a subsequent meeting, and I think it's so important, because yesterday I met, on your time, Mr. Garcetti? Yesterday I met a detective from Newton Division who was going to the homicide desk, and all he talked about is after-school programs. All he talked about is engagement. I think that's a very important thing, but I would like to first start with the public safety aspect of the police, and then subsequently fold into that, which is so important.
I'd be happy, Mr. Labange, to first look at what the police department is doing, as long as we fold into the discussion and then lead that to a second place that, if we just look at it as in a vacuum, obviously those police department, those police officers are doing it. We want to tie that in. So it sounds like we're in agreement.
I second the friendly amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. And both Mr. Labange and Mr. Garcetti, clearly the agenda and the discussion itself is a work in progress, an evolving conversation. It's not going to begin or end on that single day of special business. Let me recognize Councilmember Ludlow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to commend Council members Misikowski and Labange for bringing this forward. As we all remember, yes, there was a lot of passion, there were a lot of thoughts on this. I don't think there's been anybody in this chamber who feels that we've gotten to a point in this city yet where this is a safe city. But yet it is so important, whether we look at bringing business into Los Angeles, whether we return tourism to Los Angeles, conventions to Los Angeles, or just the way in which men and women and children can live in this city. I think this motion begins this process to actually begin to dig in and look at what we are dealing with right now. I think Mr. Garcetti makes a good point. I would like to see an outcome from this discussion, begin to look at the overall deployment issues, looking at sort of long-term items that we might be able to address. I wanted to point out one thing. Right now in Baldwin Village, we have been working on a program called Summer of Success. The focus of that program is a 5-part agenda to really dig into the investment on the front end of prevention. And I really do believe that at some point back when I think the city looked at the LA Bridges program, we did so based on a reaction to some heinous crimes that had taken place. It's my hope that this is the first step towards being proactive and not reactive, where the city can look at alternative approaches to just police buildup to reducing crime in LA. So I rise in support of this. I think it's a great first step, and I would hope the members would all be as supportive as well.
Mr. Villaraigosa.
Yes, Mr. President, members, I commend Mr. Labange and Ms. Misikowski for presenting this motion. There was a very, very passionate debate 2 weeks ago, and there was because it was clear to many of us that in a city where so many people are dying on the streets of Los Angeles and where many of those homicides are not being either investigated or been concluded, and in parts of the city where so many deaths have occurred and there's a backlog, it's critical that we look at deployment of our resources. I think this meeting is necessary. It's the kind of collaboration that we need. I would hope, however, that we're not going to engage in micromanaging the police department. Already we can see, for instance, that as a result of, one, I think the chief's philosophy about deployment, and two, some of the discussions that occurred here, we've seen that they've decided to allocate more detectives in South Bureau, where they should be deployed. And I'm hoping that in the course of the discussions that take place, as we are able to look at where the crime exists, where the hot spots are, that we're going to deploy officers and investigators, detectives, in a way that best uses our resources. Finally, I think ultimately where this discussion is going to take us is where many of us believe we should have been a long time ago, and that is that we're going to have to move in the direction of adding new officers to this department. The truth is, this is the most understaffed in terms of police officers, big city, anywhere where in the nation. And in my mind, it's not just going to be an issue of deployment and a optimal use of resources. It's going to be more cops as well.
Mr. Parks, followed by Mr. Weiss and Mr. Ludlow and Reyes for a second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things I'd ask is, as you plan this meeting, that we see if we can coordinate it with the previous request about deployment issues. There was a motion done a while back, and I think Ms. Sikowski added on to a motion that Mr. Holden had initially, so that we could look at this in context. Also, as we know, in dealing with crime, it is so important to see the trends as opposed to a 1 or 2 week flash point and then trying to make determinations about it. And so it would be important to see if we couldn't get the trends that give us some indication of how we look over the last 5 years as opposed to what do we look for the last 2 months. And so I think it's something that hopefully that we also consider that we not do a one-time meeting, but it's something that's put in place that we can get periodic updates, because the last thing that we need is a news article that flashes interest and then we make a very animated response, and then it goes away and it goes back to what is considered normal. Historically, many of the issues that we're going to be confronted with and may be out of our control, but it certainly are things that we should be thinking of solutions. How do we impact the 40% of the state prisoners that come back to our community, that start that cycle, and 80% of them go back to prison, and so we get a sense that they are victimizing people while they're back home. There are no programs for that. How do we ensure that the different programs we do fund, such as intervention, gang intervention programs, are they being layered in communities that have LA Best and a variety of other programs that cut into the prevention and intervention as well as the enforcement? And so those are things that I think give us a better sense of how we're not just spending law enforcement dollars, but how are we spending dollars in Rec and Park, at school programs. If we did not have our programs in Rec and Park open for the summer and swimming pools open, or a variety of things of midnight basketball in some of our programs, we would not have the crime reduction that we're currently experiencing. So I think we have to look at it in a broader sense and not just narrowly focus on the police department, but what other things are we doing to support them, because many of these issues in our city are equally as important as a police car on the street.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Labange, for bringing this motion in and for, I would say, sparking this debate, but I mean, we've been having this discussion around here for a while. It comes up when we talked about burglar alarms, and when we kept talking about burglar alarms and kept talking about burglar alarms, and maybe when the chief's here we might talk about burglar alarms. We might, you never know. But it's because it's all part of the same picture. It's also part, Mr. Labange, it's also part of the debate we had a few months ago about resources. Because the fact is, you can only play three-card Monte so long with the resources, the limited resources that we have. And Mr. Villaraigosa is absolutely right. We need to grow the department. But what we've just seen in Sacramento is that when you try to grow something and you don't have locked-in dedicated revenue, dedicated way of doing it, all you do is create more problems down the road, and the road isn't that long. And I think it's great that we start this discussion. I hope that as we go down this road about having more resources and doing a better job of deploying them, that we keep in mind that you can't get something for nothing. And if we want to grow the department, it's something where it's going to take a lot of courage and a group effort to come up with new, dedicated ways to fund that. Because otherwise, at the end of the day, other than we can police smarter, but at some point the curve drops off for the gains you get from policing smarter, and you just have to police more. To do that, we're going to have to come up with a plan together for gathering more resources. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Labange.
To close?
Not quite, but let's hear from Mr. Ludlow and Mr. Reyes, and then I'll come back to you, Mr. Labange.
I just wanted to remind the colleagues, Jack Weiss brought in the request to have the security looked at in terms of LAX, and I think what we got in closed session was just a real thoughtful, full briefing on the status, and thought Chief Miller did a great job. I would hope, I don't know if Harry, Ito, you're here, if we could get that level of presentation from the chief and the commissioners on this motion, that would be great, because I thought the visuals and everything that went into that presentation is the level that I'd hope they do on this one. I'm sure that's what members Misakowski and Labange are hoping as well. But that was a great, great opportunity for us, and I think if we could get that again on this issue, it would be very, very enlightening.
Mr. Reyes.
Just real quick, just to be very specific, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to this motion. And really is building from the statement of a holistic approach is needed if we wish to affect long-term change, which is in the motion itself. I'd like to make a friendly amendment if we can include an overview of how the court systems and the prison systems impact our ability to affect this kind of goal that we're trying to achieve in addressing this issue. And I'd like to make that a friendly amendment, if I may.
I like a lot of friends, so we could do that. But I think if I just wanted to say, we could lose the opportunity. And I think everybody, Councilmember Parks, others expressed, a little focused on that day. We could talk for a whole session on the needs for those who were paroled from state penitentiaries. We could talk from a whole day. So I don't want to lose that, but I think all of it will go, and I accept the friendly amendment from Mr. Reyes.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you. I know that we have a great police department, and the statistics show that things are improving greatly within the city of Los Angeles. The current MOU permits the chief of police to now deploy detectives on night watch, and I think that will help with reducing the homicide, at least the apprehension of those individuals that commit homicides throughout the city of Los Angeles. The court overtime is a major problem. Many times officers are subpoenaed to court, and they will be on call for many, many hours, which drains the overtime funds, and oftentimes little cooperation from the court when it comes to releasing those officers and detectives back to their duties. But I want to acknowledge that if we look at the homicide rate and we look at crime in general in Los Angeles, there's been tremendous improvement and a reduction in the categories. I know in my district in particular, the homicide rate has taken a major, major reduction along with other areas. We have an increase in auto theft in some areas of the city, but it looked at overall crime. I think the police department is doing a tremendous job in making those strides, those improvements. And I would agree with Councilmember Reyes. The court situation needs to be examined, and how we can get better cooperation with the members of the bench to try and help streamline that process where we don't have officers sitting in court for hours and hours sitting idly waiting for something to happen and then the individual pleads to a charge, and the detective or the officer returns back to patrol. We reduce our field force tremendously with the drain because of the court problem, and I think that we need to have some cooperation, some assistance from the bench, the court, to help remedy that situation. So I think that Tom LaBonge is on the motion, homicides, all crime in general. We are making strides, we are making improvements, but I think the court factor plays a critical part in that we lose a lot of personnel hours sitting in court, waiting for something to happen when the individuals plead guilty or have a reduced charge or a plea bargain charge. So I would ask that somehow the court sanction, the court participation come in to help with this. And the more people we put on the street, the more deterrence to crime, the more detectives out there, the quicker the apprehension of the criminals. And again, I want to commend the department for reducing crime as much as they have in the short period of time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. And taking us home, Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Members, thank you. You can see it was spirited again, and several of you had greater ideas to enhance this discussion. And I think this is the first of many opportunities where we should have a special order of business. Right now, this agenda gets driven by the city clerk's office. It gets driven by a date and a calendar, and God bless the city clerk's office and all the clerks, but I think we have to agendize special orders on issues that relate to this city, such as public safety and the whole component of that, and other issues as well. So I thank you for this support, and I'll be discussing this all with you as well as with Cindy so that we have a very effective day to take the next steps. And this is not the last time that we'll have a special order of business on this issue. I call for an aye vote, and I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. LaBonge. Seeing no other colleagues wishing to speak, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That item is approved. Next item, please.
Now would be time for comments from the public on non-agenda items.
Okay. Now is the time for public comment. Let me see if we have some public comment cards. One moment. Seeing no cards for public comment, colleagues, this closes public comment for items not on the agenda today. Next item, please, Mr. Clerk.
That leaves the closed session items.
Okay, colleagues, we'll now go into executive session. In a closed session, discuss matters needing confidentiality. If we can please clear the chambers and make an announcement from the city attorney, please. I'd like to recognize the city attorney.
Can council staff limit it to one staff member per council district? If you need more, please come to me and we'll make accommodations, but we need to weed out the numbers. Thank you.
Actually, before we clear the room, we do have one comment card on item number 68. Why don't we take that before we go into closed session? I don't have that card before us. Is the individual who filled out the card? Okay, that card has been withdrawn. So we will go into closed session. If we can please ask members of the public to leave the room for this, and if we can clear the room, thank you.
We are back in open session. Mr. Clerk?
On item 68, there's a recommendation to approve death minutes in the amount of $160,000 plus continued payments to the minor children until the youngest reaches 18 years of age in the case of Robert Mata versus City of Los Angeles.
Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That matter is approved.
On item 69, the city attorney will restate the recommendations for council.
The Harbor Department will sell to plaintiff approximately 13 acres of the Lancer property for $5,050,000. Plaintiff will donate approximately 2.7 acres for park and recreational purposes. Plaintiff and/or the Harbor Department will grant the city an easement for sewer purposes. Plaintiff and city will conduct environmental assessment of the property and, if necessary, allocate $500,000 of the purchase price to pay for remediation.
Thank you. That is the settlement as discussed. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That matter is approved.
On item number 70, there's a recommendation to approve a settlement in the amount of $115,617.51 in the case of Department of Fair Employment and Housing versus City of Los Angeles.
Again, that matter is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That matter is approved.
On item 71, there's a recommendation to approve a settlement in the amount of $12,250,000 in pending action in the case of City of Los Angeles versus Chandler Associates.
That matter is now before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That matter is also approved. All of those will go forthwith. That clears the desk.
Yes, it does.
All right, are there announcements, members? Are there adjourning motions? There are, so could everyone please rise for adjourning tributes? Let me recognize Councilmember Hahn.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I am going to ask us to adjourn our meeting today in the memory of Alita Lee Moore. And she was, unfortunately, a victim of a hit and run last Saturday night in San Pedro. She was 50 years old and had 3 children. Christopher was 27, Jessica was 10, and Anthony is 8. 5 years ago, she stopped working full-time so she could devote more time to her children. She grew up in Southern California and moved to San Pedro 12 years ago. She was a volunteer at White Point Elementary School and Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. She loved animals, music, and dancing. As a child, she was active in Girl Scouts and enjoyed seeing her daughter follow in her footsteps. In addition to her children, she leaves her mother behind, Lee Staples of Long Beach. If you remember, just yesterday, this council approved a reward leading to the information, for the information leading to the arrest and conviction of the driver that hit her and left the scene. Her services will be held this Saturday, August 16th at 10 a.m. at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in San Pedro. And they're asking that in lieu of flowers, that if you want to help out, donations to assist the children are welcomed, and those wishing to contribute should contact Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in San Pedro.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Other members, Mr. Labange?
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I'd like to ask you in joining memory and adjourning for Tammy Gower, who was the owner and co-owner and driving force of the Derby in Los Feliz, which is a nightclub. And as we all know, in parts of throughout the city, there's sometimes a nightclub that starts a whole new, I don't want to call it fad, but movement. And the Derby and the swing dance took place there at Los Feliz. And Hillhurst, her husband Tony, they had 2 sons, John and Bill. She was a very inspirational person, and just this last spring I was able to, on behalf of the mayor, who declared it Derby Day in Los Angeles in honor of those special people. But Tammy was struck at an early age of 51, and tragically there was a memorial last night at the Derby, and people were there, and speaking of her beautiful kindness and her inspiration as to bring great music. And it's all about music when we bring people together with music, that it brings joy and has other people cause for good things to happen to them. And Tammy sure applied that in her life. She was also a great friend of the Los Feliz business community and a great friend of Fire Station 35 and the Los Angeles Fire Department right there. So Tammy Gower, tragically called too early in her life, is with the angels. May we remember, and God bless her memory.
Thanks, Mr. Labange. Mr. Ludlow.
Thank you. Members ask that we adjourn. I have 2. Adjourn in memory of Annie Hilliard, born in July of 1920. She's an active member of her church, her community, and her union. And Annie was actually one of the original organizers and founders of SEIU Local 99. She served as chair of the Ways and Means Committee, and just remembered by many of her colleagues as warm and kind and someone who dedicated her life to her co-workers. She died recently, and there's been a ceremony by the other members of 99, and we ask that we adjourn in her memory. Secondly, many of you probably read in the paper, Alonzo Petty co-founded the first black rodeo in Colorado, And he recently passed away, and some interesting anecdotes about Mr. Petty. One that he came into the rodeo at the time when blacks were not allowed to compete in the rodeos. They were paid as the pre-event entertainment. And he actually moved his way up, and eventually, once he did get a chance to get into rodeo, he fell off the horse, dislocated his shoulder, put his arm in a sling, and went back out and continued the rodeo. As a dislocated shoulder member, I can appreciate the pain. But lastly, it's somewhat fitting, some of you may know that this is the week that Glenn Turman and his wife Joanne have the Giddy Up Rodeo, Giddy Up Camp, where they take at-risk youth from inner city Los Angeles up to the mountains, and they spend a whole week riding horses and farming and doing all kinds of wonderful things with the outdoors. And so Alonzo Petty and Glenn Turman were very, very close friends as they have commonly hosted the Black Rodeo in the Valley. So anyway, we ask members that we adjourn in his memory.
Thank you, Mr. Ludlow. Other members? Mr. Zine.
Madam Chair, request we adjourn in memory of Lee Allison West, passed away August 4th. Lee Allison West is a retired banker, was born in Elgin, Illinois. Lee Allison West passed away at home in Winnetka at the age of 66. Was a resident of Winnetka for over 30 years, loving wife and mother, loved by all her family, friends, and she will be greatly missed by the community. She is survived by her husband, William West, 4 children, Kelly, Patty, Tracy, and Rand, and 9 grandchildren. May Lee Allison West rest in peace.
Mr. Clerk, call the roll. Council is adjourned.